All right, y'all. So let's talk about the state of my Toronto Raptors. And for those that don't know, I'm a Raptors fan. I grew up in St. Louis, so we haven't had a basketball team since the 50s when Bob Pettit was playing, like maybe 60s. I don't know. It's been a minute though. But so I grew up a Raptors fan. Like my favorite, which is actually mad ironic, because my two of my favorite players of all time are Kobe and LeBron. And yeah, we know what they've done to Toronto. But anyway, so let's talk about the Raptors, man. So let's start off with they suck. Let's be real, they're not good. They're the 11 seed right now as I'm recording this, but things could change. Could have dropped. Could have maybe. I don't think they can move up to the 10. I think they're a little far behind. So yeah, not great right now. But let's talk about the state of them. So I probably won't be talking about the Raptors again until next season, maybe in the off season, unless they make some big move or like I don't know, Scotty Barnes drops a 40-point triple double or something like that. Unless something crazy happens like that, or like they get into like the game of the year or something, I'm not gonna talk about them again because why would I talk about a team that's not good? But anyway, so the Raptors decided this year, and GM or President of Basketball Operations, I don't know what his official title is, but Masai Ujiri, they decided this year to finally blow it up a little bit more. Maybe not blow it up in the traditional sense, like I wouldn't call what the Raptors are doing right now a traditional rebuild by any means, but it is close to a pretty traditional rebuild. Like they're not trying to really tie together two timelines anymore. It doesn't feel like it just feels like they were like, all right, let's finally let's get off of the people from the 2019 championship finally, and let's really start building around Scotty Barnes. See if we can really make ourselves a contender in the East, where the East is really ran by. The East is actually good, but it's really like there's 2, 3 good teams in the East that we know are like actual maybe contenders. The rest are just like they're solid, got good futures, but if you're not the Sixers with the healthy Embiid, the Celtics right now, the Bucks when they are clicking, if you're not one of them, or maybe the Knicks when fully healthy because they have been solid this year, there's no other contenders really in the East to me. So obviously the Raptors aren't that. They're not even in the play-in. They won't be in the play-in. If I had to guess, with what 15 games left in the season, they're definitely not going to be in the play-in or anything, which is fine with me. They were in the play-in last year, and I had to watch. I think her name is DeMar DeRozan's daughter, scream. And my friend Trevon is a Bulls fan. And I remember I was watching that game and kept hearing her scream, and I didn't know who it was screaming until the broadcast panned the camera to his daughter and was like, "Oh, that's DeMar DeRozan," and I was like, "That's crazy," because this man is literally probably the second greatest Raptor of all time, behind Kyle Lowry, and it's only because Kyle Lowry has the ring. So it's like that was crazy. We lost that because she was screaming on the free throws. Anyway, so this year the Raptors decided to let go of two pivotal pieces. OG Anunoby, one of the best defenders in the league, all defense lock. If he has enough games, I'm not sure if he does, but all defense lock if he has enough games. And then Pascal Siakam, an all-star, not this year, but he has been an all-star I think 3 times in the past, and pivotal piece to that 2019 ring, even though he was younger. But yeah, so Masai and the Raptors finally decided to let them go. It's the first year of head coach Darko Rajakovic, and Nick Nurse is a great coach. You saw what he was doing in Philly when Embiid was healthy. You see what he's still doing in Philly right now with Maxey. Like, he's a great coach. But if you were watching the Raptors last year towards the end of the season, we had to let Nick Nurse go. He's a great coach and everything, but the system wasn't working. It just looked like it was bad basketball. Like, Nick Nurse just needed a new scenery, and maybe that was because of the personnel, but I didn't hate the decision to let Nick Nurse go, especially because Darko Rajakovic has looked so good this year, especially when Grady Dick's been playing better post All-Star break and everything. The offense, I'm telling you right now, when the Raptors are good in a few years, let's pray, when the Raptors are good in a few years and Darko's really getting the recognition he deserves, that man could really win a Coach of the Year. Like, if you watch the Raptors, you see kind of the direction. Like, his offensive mind, bro, oh, it's up there. Like, he could really become a Coach of the Year, like, within a few years if the Raptors get good. And with the East right now, where there's a lot of teams, but there's also like it's not like LeBron's in the East anymore where you like, oh, there's one team that's going to run it every year. The Celtics look better than everyone right now, but the Celtics aren't going to be able to keep that up. Like, they're going to have to pay Tatum this offseason, what's going to be the most expensive contract, so they'll have him and Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown right now is the most expensive contract. So it's like, when the East is not as stacked, when the Celtics aren't as stacked as they are right now, and I think they're going to win the ring this year, but when they aren't as stacked as they are, the Raptors, there will be place for them to move up, because the Knicks, you never know what's going on with them. Like, Brunson's great and everything. I love actually the team the Knicks have, but to me, they don't have that 1A player that's going to get them a ring. I understand Jaylen Brown's been great, but that Becky Hammond comment earlier in the year, if you remember what I'm talking about, it wasn't off base. I understood there was a lot of hate because Jalen Brunson's been balling this year. Obviously, like I think he should have been an All-Star game starter, but he's been balling, right? And that's cool. But to me, they don't have that 1A superstar. Like they don't have that Steph, that LeBron, that KD. They don't have those guys to me. That Jokic, that Kawhi. They don't have those guys to me. So I'm not sure about them. The Cavs, Donovan Mitchell's been great. If he had enough games, he'd be all NBA lock for me. Jared Allen's been great. Maybe all defense. Probably all defense. Evan Mobley's, I don't know about him. I kind of think Evan Mobley is that one piece where if they decide that they're missing something and they might want to trade something, I think Evan Mobley could be that piece where they trade him. Because Darius Garland's balling, like we know what Darius Garland is. He's going to give you great three-point shooting, great assists, like not too many turnovers. He's a little undersized, but he's not going to be your 1A. Like you would have probably Donovan Mitchell would be your 1A, and I'm not sure if that's enough to win a ring, but we've seen him in the playoffs perform before. Understandably, it was his rookie year. It was his best year in the playoffs with the Jazz when they beat OKC, and I think that was MVP Russ. So yeah, I understand, and he should have won Rookie of the Year that year, not Ben Simmons. But anyway, so yeah, it was, to me, back to the point, it was time for the Raptors to let go of Pascal and OG. I believe they should have also gotten off of Gary Trent, but I'm not sure there was much of a market, so I understand why they didn't. I don't think there was a lot of a market for him. He hasn't been great. His shooting's been on and off basically his whole time in Toronto. I was a big fan of him coming out of Duke and everything. Still a big fan of his, but as a person, but like still a big fan of his. Never met him or anything, but he just hasn't been great, so I'm not sure what his market looked like. I believe last year actually is when the Raptors really should have blown it up, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, let's talk about what we got for the packages for the OG and for Pascal. So we traded OG to the Knicks. If you don't know, that was beginning of the season. That was a while ago. And the OG trade to me was the better trade because I feel like it was more clear what the future was like, and it was like, okay, we wanted to get real players. We didn't want to take only draft capital and take only risks on drafts because you never know. Like nobody hits on all the draft picks. Nobody does. The greatest GMs of all time don't hit on all the draft picks. Look at Bob Myers. He was a great GM for the Warriors. Missed on a lot of draft picks. So it's like, especially recently. But anyway. So to me, the package for OG was really good. That was the first trade we did. You know what I'm saying? We got real young players. Emmanuel Quickly, who I have been a big fan of throughout his career. I was really actually excited that we got him in the trade. I did not expect the Knicks to be willing to give him up. I expected RJ, but I didn't expect to get Emmanuel Quickly, which was fine with me. I was glad we got him. So yeah, I was glad we got real players, so we're not taking huge risks on drafts. You know what I'm saying? Especially because New York, like I said, is good. I think they're 4 seed, maybe 5 seed right now. So they're good. Like their picks are gonna be end of the first round for the next foreseeable future while they have Brunson and all them. So it's like I understand not taking their picks. Like they're not gonna be super valuable. It's not like we were trading to the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? Like we weren't gonna get high picks. So I respect the trade. And then we did the Pascal trade. I believe it was a few weeks, maybe a month or so later. Might have been a little more than that. I'm not sure, but and in the Pascal trade with the Pacers, it was like that one was the one that confused me because we really only got picks, and we got Bruce Brown, who I'm a big fan of. I was a big fan of him for the Nuggets last year in their championship run, and it definitely, like, he's one of those players that, like, if a contender gets him, he's kind of like a Derek White to me. Like, if he's on a contender, he's, like, one of those people that will turn a contending team, and he might be, like, the missing piece is what I'm trying to say. Like, he's one of the, like, what he was for Denver. Like, he was one of those people that Denver was already great, but he was one of those guys that added a little something extra. He was one of those defensive guys, one of those key role players that they don't win that ring without, and definitely not as easily. Like, I'm not sure if they're, like, Phoenix, that series I think would have been a lot tougher without Bruce Brown. Clippers, if the Clippers were healthy too, but if Bruce Brown wasn't there, it probably would have been a tougher series, right? So I'm glad we got Bruce Brown, but it's like he's not that young. He's 27 right now, I believe. He's 27, so that's not young, but it's not old. But Bruce Brown isn't one of those players like a superstar, so it's like this probably is his peak, which is fine. Bruce Brown he's good. He's a solid role player. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's gonna give you some defense. He can shoot a bit. Like he's good. But it's like that isn't like the RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, where it's like, okay, we're going for young talent that we believe we can develop, especially Emmanuel Quickly, because we've seen RJ for a while. I think we kind of understand what he's gonna be, which is he's a solid player, but he's not gonna be like that John Moran or that Zion from that draft. You know what I'm saying? Which I didn't ever expect him to be. Even at Duke, I didn't ever expect him to be that. But anyway, so let's talk about the Pascal trade. The picks that we got from the Pacers. We got 2 Pacers picks I believe they're both next year actually, and we got I think a pick swap or something like that. Like it was, but the two Pacers picks what I really want to talk about right now, as we sit here and as I record this right now on Friday, March 15th. The Pacers are the 6th seed. They would play the Cavs right now in the first round. A series I believe they'd lose, but that's not the point. They're the 6th seed. Their picks aren't going to be super valuable. They're outside the play-in. Like their picks are going to be definitely outside the lottery. Right outside the lottery, probably around 17, 20, somewhere in there, if I had to guess. So it's like those picks are all right, but they're not great. Like that's where we got Grady Dick last year. I think it was like 13 or 14, so it's around that same place. And Grady Dick started off bad, not great. I don't want to say bad, but he didn't start off great, but it's been better since the All-Star break, especially his shooting, which is what was a big upside of his at Kansas and everything. So that's cool, but it's just like I feel like that doesn't match up with what we did with the Knicks pick. I feel like they got young players from the Knicks, and then the Pacers couldn't give them that, and I understand that, but I feel like we could have got better picks. But at the same time, Pascal isn't peak Pascal, which is why to me, the Raptors should have done this last year. I believe with Fred VanVleet on an expiring contract last year, with Pascal was looking better last year around the time than he was this year when he got traded. OG, his value might have actually gone up this year. Maybe like a little bit, but I just don't like that we let Fred VanVleet go to Houston for nothing. We let him go in free agency for nothing when I felt like last year would have been the perfect time to blow it up. Would have been the perfect time to say, all right, let's rebuild around Scottie. There was a lot of talks about it. Like it's similar to the Bulls to me, because the Bulls to me last year they should have done something. Like maybe DeRozan or Levine or somebody should have gone, Caruso, Vucevic, like somebody should have gone for them, and then they didn't do it again this year, which a lot of Bulls fans I know aren't happy about. I wouldn't be either. Like I'm glad my team at least moved on and like chose a direction kind of, but yours, I don't know. But Kobe White's look great, so Bulls fans, Kobe White might win Most Improved Player. I'm still giving my vote to Tyrese for now, but he keeps doing what he's doing, and if the 76ers keep falling, which I know it's not Tyrese's fault, they are missing their MVP, right? But that is gonna matter at the end of the day. And the Bulls right now are in the play-in, even though they're not good. Like they're in the play. Well, they're not bad. They're not great though, and they're in the play-in right now. I think they're the 10 seed or the 9 seed. So like that's cool for them. But it's like that's where we were last year. Bulls were like the 9, we were the 10 or something like that, or we were 8 or 9, something like that. And we were playing them, and it's just like both of these teams felt like teams that were gonna be either you are committing to being mid for the next few years, or you're just going to blow it up, because there's nothing else you can do. It's either be mid or blow it up. Me personally, I would rather you blow it up than see a ceiling of a core, like the way Chicago has, I believe, like the way Toronto did, where you see the ceiling of a core and then you stick with them. To me, that's just dumb. Like, why would you do that? You've seen the ceiling. And I understand Chicago fans, for a while, y'all were holding out hope with Lonzo Ball, because when y'all had Lonzo, y'all were the 1 seed that year with the first year I think it was the first year of DeRozan. And that was cool and everything, but even that year, I think everybody knew the Bulls as a 1 seed weren't safe. Like, the Bulls as a 1 seed were a team that I don't think a lot of people saw making it out of the second round at best. Like that. So it's like, to me, Toronto and Chicago were in a similar spot, and now I believe Chicago's future is a little worse than ours, even though Kobe White's great and everything. But I believe the stuff that we got in return for our players, while their players' values and their players' markets, to me, continues to go down, especially as DeRozan gets older. I believe he's a free agent after this year, so I think they're going to lose him for nothing, I assume, unless he's not a free agent. But I don't think he's going to re-sign either. So if he's a free agent this year, I assume y'all are going to lose him for nothing, which is what we did with VanVleet, which to me is so dumb. Like, I understand the market's not great, but I would have rather last year we got a mid package than losing him for nothing, where you see Houston, they haven't been great or anything, but he's been a valuable vet for them. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so back to the trades. Bruce Brown, to me, is a guy where if we can move on from him next year before the deadline, maybe in free agency this year, because I think he has 1 year left on his deal after this year, so definitely don't want to lose him for nothing like we did with VanVleet, especially because he's younger. Like, he's younger than VanVleet, and is a team that a competitor, that a real competitor could use. So it's like, I believe before the deadline next year, we'll be able to get off of him, which is great, get a good package back, a decent package, which would be great. I'm interested to see how we use those 2 Pacers picks this year, especially because this is a draft that a lot of people, and I haven't watched a lot of college ball this year, to be real, but March Madness is on the way, so I will be, but like, a lot of people are saying this draft class isn't super strong. Like, I've seen Rob Dillingham, he's cool. I think Alex Sarr is the other one's name. I think is he the French one that was Wimby's teammate or something like that. I think he's solid. There are a lot of solid players, but it's not like there's a Wimby, there's a Chet, there's a Paolo, there's a Jabari Smith. Like it's not Zion. Like there's not one of these guys that's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? There's not. This isn't even a deep draft either, where like you can get a Cam Whitmore late in the draft, or you can get an Amin and a Sarr with the fifth, sixth. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not like that. You can get a Derek Lively if you're Dallas. Like this draft, I don't see a lot of that, so it's like it's a little confusing to me. And I believe the biggest hole for us right now, the Raptors, is point guard. Dennis Schroeder was cool when he was there. You know what I'm saying? Everything was, but I just feel like to me the biggest hole is point guard, and we have Scotty. Great wing, great on both sides of the ball. He can do basically whatever you want him to do. Not a great shooter, but definitely like not. You don't want to leave him open on the arc either. So it's like we have pieces, right? And I'm a big fan of Emmanuel Quickly. I'm a big fan of R.J. Barrett. Not a big fan of R.J. Barrett. I'm a bigger fan of Quickly than I am of Barrett. And it's like that's all cool and everything. I'm interested to see what we do with these picks as the Raptors. I believe if we can get that Bruce Brown package next year or in the offseason or something, if we can get a solid package for Bruce Brown, that'll help me like have more faith in the future, because right now the future's a little confusing. The timelines to me are a little confusing, especially because it's like, could we like, because hindsight's 2020, right? We all know, but it's like to me, could we have gotten more last year? I'm not in that front office. I'm not Masai. I wasn't taking those phone calls. I don't know if the market was better last year, but I assume it was. And it's interesting, but then again, like maybe we don't have Darko. Maybe we still have Nick Nurse. If they traded all the way last year, they say Nick Nurse give it a year. But it's like, to me, Nick Nurse was still a great coach. He's still proving to be a great coach in Philly. Like, he's not going to coach of the year or anything. They're not good enough. Like, since Embiid's been hurt, that's probably going to go to Mark Dayton for OKC, which deserved, obviously. But I'm saying, like, Darko's a solid coach and everything. I'm glad we have him, right? I was a little skeptical of the signing because I didn't know much about him at first, but I'm really glad we have him. But Toronto's future, it's a little confusing to me. It's not anywhere near as bad as a team, or as confusing as a team in Chicago, and then it's not as bad as a team like the Clippers, where you have a lot of old guys, and like your best young guys, Terrence Mann, who hasn't looked great since the trade, and then you have, well, not since the trade, but lately he hasn't looked great. And then you have the Lakers, bunch of old guys. Is LeBron going to leave? Like, do they know? Like, you know what I'm saying? AD's not old or anything, but AD's not young either. Like, and like you can't really. AD has proven that you can't rely on him to be your number one guy because of health and everything, even though AD's great, and to me he's top 3 in DPOI this year. Won't win it. Rudy Gobert's got that on lock. I don't think there's even a debate. Like, it should be unanimous to me. But yeah. But anyway, so it's not like bad or anything. I believe if I had to like make a tier list, the Raptors future is probably like B tier. Like, it's mid to me. It's not great, it's not bad. I believe the next year with that Bruce Brown deal and everything is going to really see, and if Scotty continues to take a jump, like this year he's been great, all-star. Next year I believe he'll do the same thing if he takes a jump again. That'll continue to give me faith. If Emmanuel Quickly can take a jump, if R.J. Barrett can even take a jump, that would all be great. Grady Dick, if he can take a jump, he's been good since the all-star break. Shooting's been good and everything, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, the Raptors are a little confusing, but it could always be worse. I'm very grateful, like, because if my team had done no moves at the deadline, or like last year when the only move we did was bring in Jakob Poeltl, and I think it was like for a first-round pick, and I was like, why are we spending a first-round pick on a center that didn't, like, Jakob Poeltl's a solid starter, right, but why are we spending a first-round pick on him? That's one of those things that's like a buying move. That's one of those things that you do to either the Spurs wanted to get off the contract, which it wasn't that to me. I think the Raptors just wanted him. I think the Raptors just wanted to make a move. They needed a big man. They were like, let's go spend the first round pick on Jakob Poeltl. And it's like, to me, I would have rather them drafted a center, maybe. Like, I would have rather them had just used a pick on a center, maybe continued to tank a little bit. Like, we drafted him. I mean, we traded for him for the first round pick, still lost in the play-in. To me, it was like, that didn't really do anything for us. That might have raised our floor a little bit, but it didn't raise our ceiling to me. So, I don't know, but the thing with me is Masai, I have a lot of faith in him, and I'm really wondering if he's trying to do what he did with the 2019 ring again, where he gets a solid team, where he had DeRozan, he had Kyle Lowry, he had all these guys, right? He had, Jonas Valanciunas and everything, who we traded off for Marc Gasol, who we got them that ring. He retired this year, actually, so hope you're enjoying retirement, Marc Gasol. But yeah, I'm really interested to see if that's what he's going to try to do, where he builds up Scotty and everything, tries to build a decent team around him. They get up there, they contend, and then it's like, okay, we're contending, but we don't have enough. We're missing a superstar, and he goes out and trades for him the same way he did with like DeMar. And we were great and everything, but LeBron was owning us. LeBron's owning everything. I don't need to hear about it. I was hearing all about it at the time. I still get memes about it to this day from my friends. Like, At that time, every single day I would open Instagram, new DM from the group chat that was some LeBronto meme or LeBronto edit, and I was just like, yeah. I was like, bro, sweeping us as the 1 seed, bro. I'm like, what's going on right now? We couldn't even, like, it wasn't even a chance. He hit that game winner going left, like the backboard floater. I was like, I was like, it was great coverage too. I think Pascal was there. I think DeRozan was there. I was like, what are we supposed to do about that? So that plan is risky if he's trying to do that again. And at the same time, like, you see what it took. Like, it took years of us being good and not being good enough. It took years of us being like, okay, we have his core, but we finally need to trade DeRozan for Kawhi. And a lot of people were mad at it. They were like, Kawhi's coming off these injuries. He didn't even want to play for San Antonio. Why would you get him for DeMar? Like, he probably could have got something else, even though Kawhi was the better player than DeMar. DeMar was great at the time, but Kawhi was the better player. But it was like Kawhi was coming off injuries and everything. He was coming off a rocky time in San Antonio. And it was like a lot of people didn't like the move. I personally loved the move. But it's like this time, I don't think you have that same luxury because this team at the moment isn't built like those teams were. Like, they don't have the solid just rotation that those teams did. And obviously, like I said, they just blew it up. So we have to give it time. But I'm expecting the Raptors to be one of those teams that's like a lottery pick at the very minimum for this year, next year, and then maybe the year after that. Hopefully not that long, but this year, next year for sure. I'm expecting us to be a lottery pick. And yeah, I don't know what Masai's thinking, but I trust him. I trust Darko. He looks great to me, and there are promising things. Like, I'm not saying the Raptors' future is bleak or anything, but had to make a video updating you all about my team and everything. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the Raptors do in the offseason. We'll see if they try to make any big names. I don't know if they have much cap space. I assume they have a good amount though after getting rid of Pascal and Fred VanVleet's no longer there and OG's no longer there. So I assume there's a good amount of cap space. Although I think RJ actually does take up. I think RJ has a big contract actually. So maybe not a lot, but we'll see. And we'll see what they do in the offseason. We'll see who they draft. We'll see if they maybe package those picks for something on draft day. We'll see. But all right, that's enough of my rambling for 22 minutes. So let's close this out. So, and to close this out today, our Bible verse comes from Proverbs 12:24, which says, "Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor." I love y'all. Have a great day.